What are you working on?
First, I want to say I got confused with the replies for the asks because they were usually done through email, so I was looking for the email. But anyways, my business is the semi luxury organized stores in Scotland. I currently have two types. It's one for 6 day, one for 9 days, and I'm an organizer, not a tour guide. I've had that confusion before. So I plan out the itineraries, I book accommodations, sites, tours, etc. I'm with the group pretty much for the whole time. They're there to make sure everything goes smoothly, to give out water for day trips. I personally would meet everybody at the airport and put them on the transfers. I also researched already all the transfers companies, the tour companies, all of that stuff. I included such services also as like giving out personal gifts to everyone. Um, yeah, so I got into this last year. A few days ago, I added a new service, which was a custom itinerary. So if somebody doesn't want to go to Scotland necessarily and they want to go somewhere else, but they don't want to spend the time researching and putting everything together, I can do it for them. So that's why I was updating my website as well. Um, and so the things Ryan sent me. So the one thing that the group can help with perspectives, I put down with my tours being since it is a higher price, since it's semi-luxury, it is around $2,000 uh, per person. What would you think might work for someone or to persuade someone to sign up for them? What might be that push? So far, nothing has worked. Um, and what has not worked is that I did Facebook and Instagram targeted ads. Um, and people did sign up, like followed my Facebook business page, but they didn't really interact with anything. They didn't. I had one person ask me a question, and that was it. I also got created business cards and sent it to my mom because my mom interacts with a lot of people, and she actually gave out at least 50 of them to people. And from what she told me, people were saying that um, people who were interested, they would say something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, I would love to go to Scotland," or "I have this in my mind already, but in the next 2, 3, 5 years." So nothing this year, nothing anything soon. And that's, I mean, it's understandable, but at the same time, I'm sure there's people who want to go this year. Um, I'm not sure what will not work at all. I'm kind of open to a lot of things. That's pretty much it.
All right, we have 13 minutes for questions. Who's got a question or 12 minutes? Who's got a question for Yaroslava? If you do, the way we do this, Dylan, is you raise your hand in the reactions here. I'll start off, Yaroslava. So, uh, when did you start the business?
Last year, I got the idea around June, July, and it took me about a month to work with a coach to put it together.
Okay. Um, how many responses did you get to your targeted ads?
I had only one person that actually asked the question. Mostly people just like followed my Facebook business page.
Okay. All right, we'll kick it to Dylan for a question. Dylan.
Um, you said Facebook ads. Was there another ad platform you said you used?
It was just Facebook and Instagram, that was all.
Gotcha. And what type of campaign objective did you use?
I don't even remember, honestly.
So yeah, just curious because there's like a difference between like driving traffic, driving awareness, and conversion.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's important. And then, but yeah, wait, do I also give suggestions now? Is that
Nope, nope, we got, that's in 11 minutes.
Yeah, just making sure. Okay, so I wanted to know that. And then what was the other question I had? You said you handed out business cards. Was there any other in-person, like traditional marketing efforts made?
I talked to a few people personally that I've met, and they asked me about what I do, and I've told them. And I did have somebody, it was somebody in Italy actually, I was there recently, who drove me to the train station, and he said to give him my information because he works with people who work with people who have a lot of money and who do like to travel, and they do travel. So that was about it. And I'm also actually in I recently joined a female entrepreneur association, which is like I would say a club, and they do also networking calls twice a month.
That's it for me.
Okay, Sarah.
All right, I got a few questions. If you were to summarize in one concise sentence what it is that your business does, what would that be?
I would say it's so it's a semi-luxury organized tours in Scotland where the comfort of my clients is my priority.
Okay. The second question I have regarding the ads that you mentioned that you were doing, did you do those ads yourself or did you get a marketing company to do those for you?
The first one was done by somebody, and it also didn't really do much. The second one I tried to do myself.
Okay. That's it for now, actually.
All right, I actually want to elaborate on that question. So the ads were done by someone and then yourself. Which one was more effective?
Myself,
Really?
yeah.
Um, and do you have any metrics from that work you did?
I'm sure they're on Facebook, but I would need to go back and look. It has been quite a few months because I did put the whole tour thing on back burner around November because I couldn't figure out what else to do. And that's when I started doing web design, and I figured out I'm just trying to do this mostly for money, even though I do like the creativity of it. So I kind of decided to come back to the tours because it's what I do really want to do.
Okay, and then I guess just piggybacking on that, how much time or money did you invest in the ads? Like, do you feel like you're able to see a positive return if you tweak some things? Like, do you feel comfortable with doing ads, or would you prefer to maybe look at hiring someone to do ads if that was the right avenue?
I would probably hire somebody to do ads since I don't understand much of the marketing area. Um, but before that, I spent, I think, around 250, maybe $300 on ads altogether,
Okay.
something like that.
All right. Caroline.
Okay, so I wanted to know how like rooted are you in Scotland? Like, do you have a lot of people that you know there? Or is
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, that's okay. Keep going.
I don't know a lot of people there. I do have some acquaintances, but I did do a lot of research into like tour companies and how to get tickets. I did research into transfer companies. I emailed with them to get like an estimate for prices, for example, and whatnot. So
And then in your marketing, you have it like well laid out as to like what the experience includes outside of just like the semi-luxury. Like, is there destinations that are on the list? Is there yeah, like what's is there when if I were to come across your marketing ad or whatever it is and see like, do I have a good idea of the experience that I'm potentially going to with you? that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I don't know, it's hard to say. I didn't really get a lot of feedback on that. I did had some help where my friend helped me put it together. Um, and she said it sounded pretty good, since she has some experience in business consulting, but that's about it. I don't know, I would have to really pull up the ads again to take a look.
Okay. That was all for me.
All right, thanks, Caroline. Dylan.
Dr.
You're,
Mike. Yep. What's it called? So a few other questions would be, do you have a set marketing budget that you're trying to apply for? Like if you're like, if I can spend this amount of dollars to test it out, like you mentioned $250, but like have you, is that just because that's all that was spent, or is it like you're trying to keep a low marketing budget when it comes to online ads, for example?
currently I'm willing to try at the moment, and I would put maybe about $500 into it, but because I did run into credit card debt while being in Europe and whatnot, so I'm trying to remake that money pay off my debt. So it's kind of a little bit difficult, but I am determined to invest in my business. That's why I partially had to come back to my parents. So part of that financial weight would lift it off. So yeah, I would be willing probably to set a higher budget for marketing eventually to just to see what will work.
And then what is your current online presence? Like, do you have a website? Do you have social media platforms? And if so, which ones?
So yes, I have a website. I have a separate Instagram page for it that I started last year. And when I did put the whole thing on the back burner, I put the Instagram page on the back burner as well. But I did come back to it now. I am pretty regular on there. Just trying to figure out sometimes what to write for the posts. And then I do have a Facebook business page that I'm kind of present on as well.
Okay. Oh, and then have you tried connecting with local businesses that tourists would most likely visit, like hotels, to potentially put in like flyers? Like, first off, do you have like flyers or like brochures, things like that? And then like, have you connected with local hotels? What is it, like bars, cafes, things like that?
No, I have not because I haven't really had a permanent home for a while, so I'm kind of all over the place in different countries, so no.
Um, yeah,
You got 3.5 minutes. That's it. Okay, Marcel.
I have a few questions here. My first question is, what is your website address or website URL?
Oh yeah, I can send it to the chat.
Okay. Cool. And my second question, do you have a business plan or a pitch deck or one page kind of like pitch for your business?
Mm-mm, no.
Okay. And I think this question was already asked, but I'm going to ask it again anyway. Have you partnered with any other companies or individuals or people that can help cross promote and potentially send you clients based on whatever industry that they're in?
Not really, no. The only people who like have been spreading the word is, well, my mom and my friend who is in business consulting who helped me to put some of the stuff together.
Okay. My last question is, do you have a referral program?
No.
Okay. That's it for me.
All right, we got 1 minute. Sarah.
All right. I assume that as part of your luxury tours or semi-luxury tours, like your people are paying you and you're setting them up everything from hotels to transportation to everything. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Have you partnered with specific third-party vendors? Like, if I was a hotel and I knew that you have a tourist company and you would be bringing me clients, it would be to my best advantage to advertise for you. Have you done any of that?
No, I have not, and the reason is because I did think about it, is because I haven't had anybody sign up ever at all, so I don't know um, how to position myself when I would say potentially pitching that to hotels, tour companies, etc.
Do you have a specific list of hotels that you already know you would be using though?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll hold off to the feedback side. I'll let Marcel ask his question.
All right, 30 seconds, Marcel.
You're on
You're-
mute, Marcel.
You're on mute.
My first question that I skipped is, who is your ideal client? What does your ideal client look like?
So my ideal client, I was actually writing that recently again. I keep rewriting it. Is somebody who either doesn't have the time to plan a vacation, but they do want to go on vacation. They like active travel versus laying by the beach. There's somebody who I do have this whole thing written out. Who make a specific amount of money, because since my tours are on the pricier side, I put right now over 65,000 a year. I don't know if that's enough or not. And sorry, I'm drawing blanks.
All right, time's up anyways. All right, we're going into the feedback round. Dylan doesn't want the camera on him, so he's got his hand up. It makes sense. We'll start off with you, Dylan. I think you maybe beat Sarah by a millisecond.
So this, I could feedback on all the stuff now. All right, cool. Just making sure. The first thing is, on your website, there's not a call to action for 3 full page scrolls. That could be a really big, issue, is that I like, if I wanted to give you money, I have to search how to give you my money. One thing I do when I look at customer sites and I want to optimize them for conversion, the very first thing I do is see how quickly I can pay them. And the longer it takes me to pay them, the less likely I'm going to. I ordered a $200 banner for a convention. I went to 6 local websites. Not a single one of them would allow me to purchase it on the spot. I ordered it online from a competitor company because they wouldn't let me do it. They could have got $200. I would have been there, picked it up myself, and they wouldn't take it, right? So that's the very first thing. It's like, you need to make it so that, think about it. If this is for luxuriousness, right? Like if I'm a person who wants to give someone money to solve all my problems, I do not want to read a newspaper before, getting to give you my money to solve my problems. So that's definitely the first thing I noticed. The second thing is that on the top, like right when I'm looking at the, can I share my screen to like share the page? Cool. Oh, host disabled. See how that. Oh, I'm the host now. What? Okay, that works.
I don't know what I'm doing. Hopefully that worked.
It'll work, yeah. But anyway, so so right here there should be a call to action, like book now, right? Or learn more. So very often you'll put like 2 call to actions. Your primary one, which is give me money, and the second one is I'm not sure if I want to give you money yet. The only reason I ever land on your website, like think about it, I'm never going to accidentally find your website. I either searched something in Google and you popped up, or I saw a social media post, or somebody gave me your link. So if I'm on your website, the only 2 reasons I'm there are to purchase something or to figure out if I want to purchase your something. So the 2 call to actions, book now, learn more. And they should go right to a page where they can either book now, or with the learn more, give them bullet points, something that's easy to read, understand, and all of that. And then throughout this, I would have call to actions, here, another call to action. You get your first one down there. That's 3 full page scrolls. I actually don't even know where that goes. I didn't even click on it yet. Oh, it doesn't go anywhere. That's already. So stuff like that, I would literally you should go through your own funnel from beginning to end, from clicking on an ad. So for example, the very first thing that happened was when I clicked on the chat link. So watch this. If I click on the link in the chat, it worked this time. The very first time I actually got an error where the SSL wasn't cleared. So that actually worked this time. So that's good. But the first time I clicked on it, I actually got an error that said it was bad. So you want to go through and click every link on your site. That's the first thing I do with every client, is make sure that I can actually give them my money. So that's a big deal. Yeah, I think that was all the stuff on the website. I didn't even get to the social post, but what was the next thing I was gonna say? Oh, the next thing I was gonna say is when it comes to your what was it, the Facebook ads, definitely you want to figure out what type of ad you are running. A lot of people try to run conversion ads. They're the most expensive, and if you have no traffic to base it off of and you're not retargeting people, it's extremely expensive. So there's a lot of companies that run these ads because they worked 10 years ago, which is why I get a lot of my clients is they fired a previous Facebook ad manager who didn't know what they were doing, and then I get them as a client. So that's something I would definitely look at. The other thing too, if this is your travel page, I would probably have text in this cover that's similar to whatever text you might have here, because I want it so, there you go. I want it so I know what you do the second I land on your page. Let's see, travel company, 70, yeah, that's good. You got the intro there. Yeah, somebody lands on this page, you definitely want that to come up. Let's see, Instagram. Good, you got a link to your site, that's good. There, email, okay. And then let's see, where there's my notes. Then kind of question and feedback, but I think you might have answered the question, but I've asked if you had any brochures. So one of the things is that it's hard for me to sign up with you if you don't provide me value first. And the best way to provide me value is to give what's called a lead magnet. So like a PDF that's like, hey, here's the top 10 places to visit in Edinburgh. And because of that, I now know that you know what you're talking about, right? Like, why would I have you book my tour if you don't know any hotels or castles in Edinburgh, right? So that's a big thing, is having a brochure would be huge. Like if I'm on your website, that learn more button, they could click on that. It could pop up a PDF with a trifold style brochure, which you can create in Canva for free. And then with that, I can now immediately go, oh, she does tours, travel, etc. Like I should in 3 seconds know everything that you do. And all I know is that you do tours, but is it like, do you do a wine tour? Do you do like a certain building tour, right? Like it's not clear enough, fast enough. And again, if you're targeting luxury, that means that you're targeting people who have very little time and they want you to solve all of their problems. So your only objective is to look fancy and answer their questions as fast as possible, because they have to get back to working on their clients. So that I think that's, let me make sure. Lead magnet. And then with those lead magnets, there's lead funnels that would go with that, but you obviously have to start with the lead magnets. And then the networking, the thing a bunch of us were asking if you've networked with local places. It doesn't matter if you've never sold anything. If you've got a professional site, professional social media platforms, you create a brochure that really does make you look super professional, having a trifold. Small businesses love going, oh, look at this thing, they're so professional, right? That's why business cards were a big deal, even a joke in the American Psycho movie, right? Like it's a big deal. So you have that. You can go to these businesses and just say, hey, you can even say, I'm starting a tour company. I would like to put you on a list of places I would recommend. Can I leave some of these brochures here? That way, if somebody stops by and they're not sure if they want to book, I can make sure that you're one of the first places I recommend. Right? That's the kind of thing you can do. So yeah, I think that's all my feedback.
That's great. Hey, Yaroslava, you're not supposed to say anything during this period. No, that's awesome. Before we kick it to Sarah, I just want to add to a little feedback. So Pat Carney used to say, who's my mentor, who created this system over the last 40 years. He said, Ryan, the right people are always in the room. Dylan hit me up like 10 minutes prior to this thing kicking off, like, hey, I can actually join. My client pushed out this, and Dylan actually does ads for a living. So one of my suggestions would be take a lot of what he just shared and start using it. Sarah, did you have your hand up?
I did. I think Dylan covered like everything, but that was awesome. Actually, I even learned some stuff through that. That was cool. But one suggestion, just to kind of re-emphasize something that Dylan talked about and something that I've experienced in my business, is the last point he made is, don't worry that you haven't sold anything. You still know what you know. Like, that's besides the point, right? So present yourself properly and professionally, and it doesn't really matter that you haven't sold anything. If you keep that in your mindset that, oh, I haven't sold anything, so I don't really know how to set myself up, that's going to come across your interactions with partners. So I've created multiple partnerships with different types of companies, and I haven't gotten one single client that has used them, but it gives you more credibility to say like, oh, I'm actually like in partnership with hotel XYZ and whatever, right? Like, it doesn't have to be a contract. It doesn't have to be so serious. So kind of simplify that in your own mind for yourself and for your business. It will give you more credibility, and it will look like you know what you're doing more. So that was just one main point that I wanted to make. Other than that, I haven't gone through your Instagram or your website like Dylan just has, but just as a point to reemphasize kind of what he was talking about, the trifold as well, is that, if since you're not getting clients yet anyway, you might as well provide value so that you could potentially get clients. So I don't know what your Instagram what's in it right now, but I would do almost like a mini virtual tour of whatever tours you're giving on your Instagram. Like, make a reel out of it, show them what it is that you would be providing. Add value to people so that when I land on your page, I could be like, oh, damn, like this girl knows how to do this and this, and she's done this, or she has a really good idea. Like, oh, I don't really want to hurt my brain and try to figure out how to do this tour and that tour. Like, add value to your audiences before they become your customers. So that was just one point as well.
Thank you, Sarah. Dylan.
Yeah, actually, specifically on that, the Instagram tour thing, there's actually a very little known piece of content you can create called guides. I don't know if anybody's ever seen those before, but what they are is it's a collection of posts, and then you can basically write a blog between them. But yeah, so like that's a really like using something. So this is a note for all social media platforms. If you use a new feature that nobody knows about, nobody uses, the platform will promote it because they're trying to test it, right? I've only seen 2 people ever use a guide, which means if you become the only person in Scotland posting guides on Instagram, you might get hit up with a ton of views, totally free, and you get to create your own guides that you can use for yourself. People can use the value added things like that. So I definitely recommend that. And like Sarah was saying about providing the value, the other cool thing too is like worst case scenario, you can't get anyone to close, but you could potentially set up affiliate deals with these hotels. Like, hey, if I get you a room, can I get 1%, 5%, 10%, 20%? Like, you got a pretty broad range you can ask for. And you could do that where like if there's a local winery, a local brewery, you can say, hey, I'll bring tours this way if I can get a cut of the tour, right? Stuff like that. So there's even ways to do it without you even being involved if you're the gatekeeper of knowledge for touring. So like that's the reason why it's so valuable to be a provider of information and value for the industry you're trying to be involved in, because even if you can't provide the service, you can connect them, and now you can generate revenue that way.
All right. And so we still have 18 minutes, so keep rolling and raising your hands. So I think, let's see. I think that it's great Dylan's here because there's opinion and there's counsel. Some of the things I'll be sharing are more opinionated. Things that Dylan may be sharing at this moment are more counsel related because he lives in the ad space. But, you know, as it relates to if I step back from the ads and I'm looking at the entirety of the business, what I see, Yaroslava, is that you're intelligent. So you have knowledge, you have a passion for this, you're in no rush, you have branding capability, and you have research ability and or desire. Like you seem like you've researched this a little bit. When I look at weaknesses, well, I also learned that you haven't done much for cross promoting, at least nearly as much as I think you could. You are determined to invest. I do believe that when you say it. And you know, it may not be tomorrow, but it may be in 3 months. You do have assets. So you have your website, which I think looks great. You know, at least visually, the aesthetic is there. And the same with your Instagram page, and the same with your Facebook business page. You also have graphic design and photography capability, which is great. So I feel like you've got all the majority of the necessary things to build this business successfully. I think that your biggest challenges, which may or may not be something you want to dive into, it really comes and I know Dylan, I think, said that you don't need a sales background. What I see is lacking in sales ability and not necessarily like negotiating or things of that nature. More so just the ability to, I think you need to finish your funnel, like Dylan said, like, and go over that time and time again until you really understand the funnel. Like you should be able to share with someone exactly how you go from target to customer. And I think in every aspect of that right now, there's something lacking, especially target. You know, I think something you could do is you could reverse engineer some of your competitors' success to determine who your target customer is. I believe that you should have a picture of that individual. When I was looking at what that individual looks like from my perspective, which is totally random, I think it's a business executive. I think it's someone who spends money. And I don't know if it's the man or if it's his wife, but I do see an all-in cost of somewhere between, let's say, $5,000 and $10,000 for a couple to do this trip, which I think is pretty significant. So I really think you need to understand who that is, and that's like step one. And then I think step two is going through your funnel and knowing every step of that funnel. I actually have a resource. I'll send it to you right after this meeting. That is a funnel resource where you could really deeply identify each of these steps. I also believe you need to live there. So whether, you know, maybe that's step 3, I don't know. I think it's great you're paying off your debt right now. And I don't know the requirements to live in Scotland for you. But I would pursue that. You know, how can you get to Scotland so you could start to do more of that groundswell? Like, as much as I think the funnel is a challenge, knowing every step of it and having it memorized, I think the second biggest challenge is your inability to put yourself out there and to establish partnerships in Scotland that'll aid in your sales effort. I think you have the right spirit and the right energy to be able to build a lot of relationships there so that you really have a sales team of, let's say, 10 partners who are willing to support you, and consider, you know, what's in it for them as well. Finally, I think you have a good opportunity. So you know, the US, in my opinion, is turning into Argentina 10.0. Meaning inflation's hitting us, people are losing confidence in the dollar. And what happened in Argentina when that happened is people started to spend their money because there was no purpose in investing that money, because their currency wasn't worth much. So I do see a time in this inflationary time where people are spending on things like going on tours to Scotland, and your service is super valuable because one of the things I realized from my 3 months in Europe is that if I had actually planned it, I would have achieved what I want. I would have spoken to more locals, understood more culture, ate food at, locals' houses. Like I would have done so much more than what I did, which was kind of work from morning to night and then go see some stone walls and things like that. So I really, 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 really believe in what you're doing. I think all it takes is like one to create a little bit of momentum and really have a use case for it. Dylan.
I sent a link over of resources it's from a book called The $100 Startup, but I'd highly recommend going through them. I've actually used that 39-step product launch checklist as a basis for creating a checklist for crowdfunding campaigns where my business partner in my comic book company, who is zero marketing ability, was able to raise like 2,200 on our first Kickstarter, and our largest Kickstarter like $5,400 to sell a comic book about cats. So these resources are very powerful. There's like the one-page business plan. I think Sarah might have asked about that, or somebody asked about a business plan. Like you should have a business plan of like, who's your ideal. Actually, what does it say in the list? It's like it's like super basic stuff. Like, what do you sell? Who will buy it? How will your business idea help people? What will you charge? How will you get paid? It's like simple questions like that. But like some of them, like, somebody else mentioned, how can you encourage referrals? Like that's one. How will customers learn about your business? And the learning about your business one, I'd highly recommend this book right here, Traffic Secrets. So like Ryan said, like go through your funnel. Like you need to make sure your funnel works. Like I was just showing you how just getting on your page, I'm already lost. There's no button for 3 scrolls. The first button doesn't work, right? So before you spend any money on ads, you should test your funnel a half dozen times. Have someone who's never looked at it go look at it. Have someone who's already looked at it re-look at it. Things like that. Make sure that it functions. Like literally, I have one of my clients. We're building out email marketing campaigns. I build them out. I duplicate it. I shorten the time span for the campaign. I have them test it. If it doesn't work, I go back. I edit it. Right. So we make sure that it's all set up because you don't want to send traffic to a broken funnel, especially if you're new at it. Like if you've already built a bunch of companies and you can afford to make mistakes because you got other companies funneling the cash. But in the first one, you don't want to make too many mistakes because you're draining the bank account. But in this book, the biggest thing I've gotten from this book is this section right here. It's called the Dream 100, specifically one to many. And the whole idea is it recommends finding websites and forums, Facebook groups, influencers, podcasts, email newsletters, blogs, and YouTube channels specifically that your ideal customer visits. Meaning, if there's a podcast about Edinburgh, then you want to be on there talking about where they can tour. If there's a forum that talks about touring in Edinburgh, you need to be in it. If there's a influencer who's just like, even if they're like just a fitness influencer in that area, you want to communicate with them and become friends with them, right? Like you want to connect with all these people because instead of trying to find, a bunch of clients physically one at a time or running ads, go where they already are and then just stand in front of them. So that's kind of the idea of the Dream 100, which basically you could be doing that for free this whole time. Like you're just joining forums, joining Facebook groups, joining websites, blogs, commenting on blogs. Like literally I had somebody message me on a YouTube chat, a YouTube comment I put on a video 4 years ago because it talked about Aristotle's rhetoric, the way that he persuades people, and I gave a little more feedback to it. And this was a teacher from another country who messaged me and was like, hey, I found your comment here. It was very insightful. Could you please give me the original source because I'd like to teach it in my class? Like that's from 4 years ago, a comment, right? So being engaged in the community where your people are, where the people that want to potentially be your clientele is huge. And like Ryan said, that seems to potentially be business people who might want to visit. Well, if that's the case, that's what you want to look for, business forums, right? So maybe business forums in the US or the remainder of the EU, outside of the UK. So that would be potential options, or even business groups that are local. Maybe there's somebody who lives in England and they want to visit, but they don't want to just visit. They want to actually have a good time because maybe they're a wealthy business person. So yeah, and yes, with Marcel and the Chat GPT, like all of these questions can be answered with Chat GPT.
That's wild. Marcel.
Okay, I'm just gonna kind of go through my list here. It might be a little unorganized, so forgive me. The first note is strategic alliances. Dramatic pause. Think about that. Strategic alliances, people that you can partner with, that can help you or that you can help. And I'll get back to that. The next note is jab, 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 right hook. That's a book by Gary Vaynerchuk. I think I might have mentioned this before, but I always mention it because it's phenomenal. It's the concept of giving value, and giving value before you ask for anything in return. And that'll help, put you in a position of being authority in the marketplace for what you do. I think the Instagram guides thing is huge, that Dylan mentioned. Virtual tours, that is a huge, huge, huge idea that Sarah mentioned. You can do that with Reels for Instagram, you can do for TikTok, YouTube Shorts. You can also, since you do travel and you're not, let's say, stationary, that's a great way for you to do tours with maybe you and a partner or you and a camera person. And literally you just be in the camera and you're giving little tips. Oh, here's this, or did you know, or important facts, or actually go on these tours with your one camera person and be the person that's showing people things and giving those little pieces of content and knowledge. Give people a slice of the cake, not the whole cake, but definitely give people slices of all these places that you go to or that you're in, because that'll also help be content. And then if you utilize it properly with TikTok and YouTube, that can potentially, for one, that lives online forever. And then that can probably start bringing in revenue just from being stuff that people view and watch. 5 tips about, Sweden or Stockholm, and, just different things like that. So consider doing that short form content planning so that you can give virtual tours, because that way it's not reliant on you physically being anywhere. And then you can find ways to monetize or have affiliate links to different things that you reference in the videos. And that's good. That's a great way to gain exposure. A solid reference point is a guy or a company that's called Passport Heavy. I put it in the chat there. They do like tours all over for Colombia. Here's some of the best restaurants in Colombia, or here's some of the best this, or here's some of the best that. So look that up, Passport Heavy. Potentially look up some of their competitors and things like that, because that's a good way to give you a visual on the type of content information that you can share with people, that people get attracted to, and they're like, oh, these are cheap prices. I can go bowling in Colombia for $10 and I can do that, and there's a bar and there's this. So finding ways to be visually show what you can do or what's possible in these places that you're at, if you're staying in the travel realm. Hopefully that helps. So yeah, give a slice of the cake, not the whole cake. Discounts with your strategic alliances. So this could be you offering discounts to people that are your viewers, to, let's say, hotels, or to local pubs or bars or food places. So if you partner with these restaurants and say, hey, if somebody comes and they say promo code, your business name, then they get 5% off or 10% off of their meal or something like that. And that can be a way that they track the people that you bring to them. And they could also, another you can either do both. You can give them the new client a percentage off of using the service for your strategic alliance, or you can get commission from the strategic alliance for the customer that you just brought them, or you could do both, you know? So that's cool, a cool way to get like 5% or 10%. And then consider having a minimalistic referral program, which is like, hey, if, for example, if we were to get you a client or something like that, offer 10%. So it's just something small to give people an incentive to help you. Not that it should be necessary, but you know, a lot of people do operate from a what's in it for me mindset, even subconsciously. So they're more likely to help you if there's some kind of minimalistic reward in it for them. So a 10% commission, or, you know, some kind of gift. It doesn't have to be money or monetary value, but some kind of little reward for people that help is huge. And then, like I said, I mentioned ChatGPT. People don't use it to its fullest capacity at all. One thing that you could do, for example, with ChatGPT is tell it to act as a luxury tour service provider with a background in marketing until I say we are done. And then I like to say understood, and then it says, yes, I understand. So that way you turn that specific chat into a luxury tour provider with the background in marketing. So now you can ask it questions like, how would you market to new clients? And it'll give you a creative, intelligent answer about that. You can say, what type of lead magnets would you create? And then it'll give you answers for that. And then you can say, okay, create the lead magnets, and it'll do it. So you can literally use ChatGPT to be your ideal version of yourself. And it'll give you creative, really good answers on how to obtain the goals that you're trying to obtain. And you can also use it to come up with the script for your short form content, the titles for your short form content, like literally everything. Think of ChatGPT as a potential second brain. So if you're ever like stuck with clutter in your head, you don't have to be. It's all in the way that you ask ChatGPT, but you can tell it to act as a therapist. You can tell it to act as a marketing, you know, specialist, act as a salesperson. So, you know, or a sales specialist. So then it can create copy for you to do cold calls, or for your brochure, come up with, you know, content for trifold brochure. ChatGPT can do all this stuff, which is super phenomenal, and people have no idea. So that is my main notes, but definitely check out Passport Heavy on Instagram. And I think they have a YouTube as well, because that's one way that you can start putting content out there today as you travel. And it doesn't have to be perfect or fancy, but just start putting tips out. And repetition, consistency is key.
Thank you, Marcel. Hey, Dylan, real quick, can you make me the host again? I don't know if that matters. I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback. Don't kick it to Dylan. So one of the things, let's see. So Marcel mentioned like referrals, I believe, and I know like Marcel pays commission for people who bring him business. Another way to go about that could be like my grandpa's Dunkin' Donuts model. So my grandfather used to have somebody working on his car, and when they'd be working on his car, they're gonna hook him up. You know, he would make sure that he bought Dunkin' Donuts for the entire place. When you're in Scotland, this is, you know, and you're going out and you're meeting the hotels and all this stuff, like this staff will be the people recommending you. And so use the Dunkin' Donuts model, like bring them donuts and coffee and just become their best friend, because that will matter more probably than anything else. And the reality is there's value in that, right? They want to enhance the customer experience. They can only do that to a certain point. Like they're not you. So they are bringing other people value. If they love you, they want to recommend you. Which is why Marcel recommended me, you know, because he loves me. All right. And then act as if. I think something that like Sarah reminded me of yesterday, it's like act as if. So all of us, you know, as we're growing our business, the whole world doesn't need to know that we're growing our business. You know, the whole world could know that you have a business and you're super passionate about it, and this is why you're passionate about it. So just act as if like everything was running flawlessly and this is why you do it. So share your dreams and your and what brings you joy, not the headaches that we all deal with constantly. And then let's see, check out town hall. You know what, I'm sure you could potentially receive some information from the town hall over there to understand what the profile of the visitors are in Scotland. You know, do they come from Europe? Do they come from the United States? And I'm just going to end with, I think the profile of that person is super important. So what I would do if I were you is I would take this recording as soon as I send it to you, and I would, for the next 1 week, figure out to the best of your ability who your customer is and make it an image. It's this, you know, bald 62-year-old man with whiskers. Like, have that, be very specific about that. You know, that has a hard hat and works in construction. I don't know. Be very specific about that. And spend the next week doing it, because in 1 week you have a follow-up to this hot seat in front of all of us, and make the most of that. Like, say, hey guys, based on the 15 different things I did, I realized that I think my demographic is this, and this is why. Your ability to define who that person is will then help you get to the next step and figure out how do you reach them. All right, Dylan, you with us?
There you go. First off, we like definitely got Marcel's thing of like you can't use ChatGPT too much. Basically, one of the things you could do, and this is something I haven't seen a lot of people do or even mention you can do, is you can have ChatGPT ask you questions. So you can actually say like, hey, you're a business and marketing consultant and I'm trying to start a company. Can you ask me a series of questions so that you can better support me in my efforts? And it'll ask you a series of questions. And the reason why I say that too is because basically there's the whole idea that an answer can only be as good as the question asked. And so your answers, like what you're going to be getting from this, is going to be limited by what you already know. But if you tell it that it's a professional and that it has to ask you questions, those questions are going to be questions you may never have thought of. So that's a really, really big deal. I would definitely do that. What was the other thing I was thinking of? Oh, I sent a list of Instagrams to show you something. There's a company called Bucket Listers, and they have a collection of Instagrams like Los Angeles bucket list, Las Vegas bucket list, or bucket listers Seattle, bucket listers Austin, or sorry, reverse that, Seattle bucket list, right? You could just make, I've already been thinking about doing one for Nashville, because I don't think there's one for Nashville unless they recently created it. Start being the person who does it, and then I can sell it to them at worst, and at best I have the Nashville bucket list. You could do that for Edinburgh, right? You just start collecting images. And the cool thing is that you're not trying to create your own content there. You're trying to aggregate content. You're trying to look at a bunch of content that's already out there and then put it together. Like, hey, here's the best video I found on this. Give credits to those people, right? So you can find a video on Instagram, repost it yourself, and then give credit to the person that you posted it from. And now you're also tagging people who might come check you out and be like, oh, wow, look at these other people. And now you're a networker between influencers. And so they're all, going to your page, which is a really big deal, because all of these pages are huge. They've all got tens of thousands of followers. So that's definitely something I'd recommend doing. And then, oh, the other term you'll want to ask ChatGPT is what forms of inexpensive or free guerrilla marketing efforts can I accomplish? Like GUERILLA or RRILLA. I think there's 2 R's, 2 L's. But that's something I would recommend, is trying to figure out ways to market that no one else is, because then there's nobody blocking that traffic for you. And that's why, like what Ryan was saying, bringing somebody a cup of coffee, nobody does that. So like when you do it, like it is really memorable. But like if you're not currently in Scotland, you could be building out these brochures and pamphlets in the meantime. And also, I totally didn't even register this. You could build out a thorough enough brochure where somebody can, check all the boxes, and you could just be like a travel agent who books everything for them. You're not involved uh, in much outside of like them checking boxes. So you don't need to even make the plan if you just want to provide like, hey, here's all the options. Check the ones you want, and I'll figure out how to book them for you. And then, maybe even that simple. And that can all be done in a brochure style way where like first section's travel, second section is what's it called? The housing, right? This third section is transportation for, whether or not they're renting a vehicle or not. Fourth section is events, right? So like wine tasting or parties or whatever it might be. So yeah, that's something you could also do that would simplify that process on your end while still making it easy enough for the consumer.
Marcel. Thanks, Dylan.
I just wanted to emphasize again Ryan's note about the, I guess, donut analogy, but mention that there's a lot of health concerns with providing an actual product like that. So Starbucks gift cards, $5 or $10 Starbucks gift cards are definitely the way to go to do that and be remembered. And when you do that, also have the leave behind, which could be your business card. The better thing would be the trifold brochure. And yeah, build a relationship with these, hotel desk clerks or hosts and all these different people, because they literally do see millions of people or thousands or hundreds of people every single day that potentially would be your ideal client. So if you go to them, talk to them, give them the Starbucks gift card and your brochure, then, and get their permission to, put your stuff there, then they'll be sure to mention it because they'll think about you throughout the day. So that's a great note there.
All right, guys, we are winding down. If you have more feedback, raise your hands. You got a couple more minutes. Yaroslav, I think one additional piece of feedback I have to consider is open book pricing model. So, $2,000 might seem like a lot per person, right? But when you break that down and you're saying, okay, this is the a la carte. We got Marcel's wine tours, we got Sarah's pub tour, we've got Caroline's art tour, and when you go through that, we got Dylan's opera house, or Dylan's tango dance lessons. So when you go through that, and then you got Ryan's baseball game. When you go through that, the a la carte menu, like, open it up and be open about your pricing. Like, this costs $6.99, this costs $3.45, this costs $7. And then, the limo service costs $1,200, the cab service costs $200, me driving you priceless. Like, just throw in all those options so that, unless it limits you with your funnel. I do think there's an ability, though, when you're doing your funnel and there's that book now, maybe that book now is a deposit, right? Maybe it's a $500 or $1,000 deposit, and then you provide them the a la carte menu. The thing I like about open book pricing is that there's no confusion behind it. It shows that you're very open, and it shows that, included in all this are all these things. Oh yeah, by the way, and then I just need to get paid. And like, I don't see anyone fighting the fact that you just did all this stuff for them and then you need to get paid $1,000 for the weekend. I think it's a lot harder when you show them $3,000. They don't know what they're receiving and they think there's 80% margin when the reality is there's probably 15% margin. So being able to show them the margin, it also allows them to modify the price based on their budget. So as much as it's important to profile the right person, the reality is people don't want to spend money on things that they don't see the value. So it also allows you to have conversations about each of these things, and to open up like Ryan's baseball game for $45 is this, and this. And then it gets someone excited about the actual experience instead of just the price of the experience. You're going through almost like a proposal of the a la carte menu where they're understanding each one of these line items and getting excited about them and being involved in the buying process instead of just the buyer. So I think that is really important. I also wanted to add, I know you went to Florida. I think this is your first week there. You know, to pay off your debt from travel. Remember two things, and I struggle with this. People ask me all the time, like, Ryan, so what are you doing for work? I'm like, why are you asking me what I do for work when I just spent the last 3 years of my life living out my dreams? Like, ask me about the amazing experiences I just had. So I think a lot of people could tend to bring you down based on the fact you just traveled through Europe and now you're in debt because of it. But you did that for a reason. Like, you traveled to Europe because you wanted to explore Europe. And from that, you gained invaluable perspectives and experiences that most people don't have. And that helped you so use, like, understand that, affirm that, constantly remind yourself of that, talk to people like us who will remind you of that, because it's really important from an esteem perspective to realize that you did those things for certain reasons that other people just probably don't understand. And while you're in Florida and while you're paying off the debt, know that you made a good decision to be there. Know that you're in the process of paying off your debt, and that's the right decision too, because none of us should be in debt. So there's my feedback. Does anyone else have any other feedback before we wrap up this hot seat?
Two things. One, if you market to the affluent, it doesn't matter how much it costs. Like, for example, if you want to sell me a marketing, like something that will improve my marketing, all you have to do is convince me that it will work and I will buy it. It doesn't matter how much it is. And it's not, and I'm not that, I don't make a lot of income. The point is that I make enough income that if you are going to sell me something that will improve my business, right, then I'm going to buy it. But I just did the calculations. If you are in the top 1% in the United States, that means you earn $400,000 a year or more. There's 360 million plus people in the United States. That means that 3.6 million people earn $400,000 or more. You can easily in Facebook ads target anyone who's in the top, I think it's like 5%, I think is like the smallest margin you can do, which is like 200,000 a year plus. And then there's another category, so you could say target this and then overlap that with a target of business decision makers. And that's actually a new feature they just added, which is awesome. And I don't know anybody else who knows that. I actually only found that by mistake, and even my marketing meta pro connection didn't know about it. So little insider for you. And then the other one is, I agree about the debt because I'm debt free and it feels good. But the only thing I disagree is that unless it's business debt and you're using it to enhance your career, that's good debt, business debt.
Thanks, Dylan. All right, who else has feedback for Yaroslava? Caroline, what you got?
You hear me?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I've been on not mute. Sorry. I think that I want to piggyback on what he was just talking about, the good debt and the bad debt. I think that sometimes we can bring that into, like, subconsciously more so, into this, like, our work experiences, our business goals and all of that, especially if the fact that you haven't sold a tour yet is, dancing in your mind at all. Yeah, I think that both what Dylan and Ryan was saying about all of that is a big deal. And, like, because you are back at home doesn't reflect at all the future of what you are building right now. And I think everyone kind of really nailed it with their feedback. And I was looking at your website. I had to pull my computer out because I have you on my phone. And I love it. yeah, and it looks like there is a lot of like emphasis on castles, which I think is really interesting. And if you wanted to emphasize on that at all. But that's pretty much it. I love your website. It's beautiful. Well done.
Thank you, Caroline. Sarah.
Just a thought that occurred in my mind right now. Take advantage of the assets and the skills you have, and a very obvious one to me now that popped in my mind is you said you were born in Russia, and I should know that too because your name is Yaroslava, so I assume you speak fluently Russian. So I don't know about the rest of the world, and I don't know if Russians want to go to Scotland, but I know that Russians are traveling a lot. Like in Dubai, you bump into Russians like right, left, and center. Same in Saudi Arabia. I was there. There's a lot of Russians. So I assume that some of those Russians also want to go to Scotland. And I assume further that some of these Russian people would love a tour in Russian. So, you know, I don't know if you have that anywhere or if that's something you want to do, but that's a skill set you have. Like you speak Russian, right? So take advantage of it potentially. You could potentially do tours as well. Maybe you have it on your website. Maybe I just haven't seen it. I'm on my phone as well. So just if you don't have it, maybe consider putting like bilingual tours or something like that, you know? That might be very helpful. That's it.
All right, we got 30 seconds. Anyone else? Okay, guys, and girls, men and women, appreciate you pouring into Yaroslava today. I think the feedback was awesome, super valuable. Yaroslava, you got any final words?
I just want to thank everybody for your expertise and your wisdom. It was a lot of great information. I wrote most of it down, but I'm glad to have the recording as well to re-listen to it. I don't know if you saw, Ryan, I did write that I am trying to relocate to Edinburgh, and I found a way how to do it. It just, again, comes down everything to money. And Sarah, the bilingual tours was an idea before, but because of the war between Russia and Ukraine, it brings a little bit of difficulty to that because I already had people, nothing ever happened towards me, but what I've heard from others and the questions people ask me or how they reacted when they found out I'm from Russia originally wasn't the best, I would say. So I wouldn't want to put necessarily Russians into a situation where they would feel uncomfortable or something of that sorts. But otherwise, I think it's a great idea, and I did explore it before. So yeah.
What's up,
Thank
Sarah?
you.
Just a quick point on that, and I totally, if there's somebody that's gonna understand what it's like to be targeted. I'm a Muslim woman, Arab, living in the North America, so I totally understand that. Just one thing that I want to, just for your own mindset, not necessarily for your business. Ain't no running away from it. Like your name is Yaroslava, right? Like your name is not Stacy, and you've got an accent, which is an awesome thing. That just means you speak another language. So I know what you're feeling. I totally feel what you're feeling. I've been there before, but even not for your business, just for your own personal mindset, kick yourself out of that mindset, because anybody that's going to judge you for being Russian because of what like Putin is doing is just straight up stupid, right? Like that has nothing to do with anything. Anybody that's going to judge you or your business for that is irrelevant, and you probably don't want them as a customer anyway. So be authentic to yourself and to your roots, and don't shy away from it, because there's nothing bad that you've done. You haven't hurt any Ukrainians, and you're not like trying to do some propaganda against Ukrainians or anything like that. So just as a side note, not necessarily for business, but just as a personal comment.
All right, we got to wrap up. Dylan, what's up?
Just second that, like I know that I'm very blunt about what I think about circumstance, because if that will ever cause friction in the future, I'd rather not work with you now, right? Because you could imagine booking somebody, getting them all the way through the process. You've got their money, they suddenly tell you that they don't want to work with you, and now you got to deal with that whole process of retracting everything. Like I wouldn't, I like being authentic is so much easier. Just telling people to screw off if you don't like them actually feels pretty good. And then the second thing was, if you wanted to do bilingual, you could also use a subdomain. So I don't know how you set up your website, but subdomains are free with domains. So like right now you have www. I forgot the domain. Where's the domain? Whatever the domain was .com, but you could do ru dot, for Russian dot the name of the website .com, or like, FR for French, and UK for England, all those things. So those are ways to do it. Or you can do it as a URL path. So it's the name of the website.com / RU, something like that. And then you can have a whole sub website that's in a different language. So that's just the way anybody can use that idea.
All right, we gotta wrap up. We got 90 seconds. Give a hand for Yaroslava. All right. Thank you everybody for your time, feedback. Just wrapping up today, and I'll stop the recording.